WinStar Farm has never stood a stallion that won only one race. And we're here to talk about a special talent in a horse named Heartland. I'm here with Bob Baffert, Hall of Fame trainer, David Hanley, Senior Vice President at WinStar Farm, and Dave Grinning from the Daily Racing Forum. Start with you, Bob. What do you remember about Heartland last year when he broke his maiden at Del Mar?
I remember when you first sent him in, being the way he was bred, and the way he looked, and the first time we breezed him, I knew we were sitting on something really special. In Heartland, he was my horse. He was my pick, and the way he'd been working, and so I'll never forget that first out. He breaks a little slow, ducks in.
I thought he was going to go through the temporary rail.
It was scary. It was a scary moment, falls back. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. And turning for home, I mean, I gave the horse no chance at all. And so all of a sudden, the Justify kicked in gear, and he just flew up the rail, and he just draws off. And when a horse, 2-year-old runs in 103 and change,
right,
that is really special at any racetrack. That's fast, especially Del Mar or anywhere.
90 buyer,
yeah,
2-year-old,
90 buyer, and going through all that trouble, I felt like as a trainer, you're always looking for that because you know you're always hoping for that next superstar.
Yeah.
And I thought, I think he just stamped himself as one of the top 2-year-olds in the country. And it was just an exciting, thrilling moment. And when you see those young horses perform like that, it's just something that we're all looking for.
On these roundtables, we try to get some new ideas, Dave, you've worked at the Racing Forum a long time. Obviously, July and August brings out the next crop of good horses. What was your impression? I know you're mainly East Coast. I've asked you to watch the race. What has been in your impression of Heartland?
Well, as it so happens, that same day in Saratoga, there was a maiden race that was won by Seize the Gray, and Dornoch was second.
So this is the time of year.
This is that time of year where these horses get started. And when you watch them gallop out, because the most impressive part, really, well, one of the most impressive parts is when he's past the wire and he's going out in 109 and change, but he's still going on.
Yeah.
He looked like he was just getting started nearing the wire. And that's a sign to me of a horse that just, 5.5 is like too short. Let's get those 7s. Let me go on with it. But if you're going to make a race like the Del Mar Futurity and those things, you got to get started when you got to get started. But the way he slid up the rail like that, first time out professionally, that was pretty professional to do that and then gallop out like he did. I'm sure you guys were all excited that, hey, we've got something to work with here.
No, I mean, that's the thing. Dave, you know how many good horses we've been around. I mean, great horses. Justify, right. Life is Good.
Right.
What were we seeing at the farm?
Yeah, I'd go out to the barn, watch the yearlings come up, and they'd walk up in the middle of the barn and stand there. The guys would be checking their legs. And after seeing this horse come up a few times, and he'd just stand there like a statue, perfectly square, perfectly balanced with that lovely shoulder, and head out in front of him, and he'd stand as still as a statue, and then he'd just walk off, and he had so much class. And after being around him, you could kind of feel, he really commanded the space there. When he was in the barn, he was just different. Yeah. We were very impressed with him as a young horse.
Yeah, and that's why we feel like we want to stand him, because he looks the part. He's by Justify, and he's a half to Classic Empire, who is by Pioneer of the Nile, and this horse is by Justify. So, it makes perfect sense to us why to take the chance on him being a maiden winner, like Malibu Moon, who won one race. Danzig made $32,000. You also had McLean's Music.
McLean's Music was one that ran fast first time out and didn't get the chance to do it again. But he became a pretty good stallion as well. And the other thing you have going for you with this particular horse is watching the replay several times that I did, I started to notice he's a gorgeous looking animal. He just has a very, when they slow it down, he's got that great stride. And then you get to see him just the body and just the head. And he's like, this is a really good looking horse.
Did you feel like he was one of the best or one of your best?
Yes, I could tell early on. One thing, on these horses, the great horses, they said, well, how can you tell? What separates them? And what happened, these good horses, they just, when you breeze them or run them, they don't have a bottom. They just keep going. They don't get tired. They just keep going, all the great ones. And this colt, it was that way. And he was real light on his feet, really light on his feet. And for him to do what he did first out, he showed me he was going to be a superstar. There was no doubt in my mind he was going to be the one, and unfortunately, he was, had a setback. But it's just, it's a shame. But he was going to be a superstar.
Also seemed like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, he must have had a great mind, because to encounter all that leaving the gate and the dirt, he didn't seem to get fazed much by it. I don't know what he was like training, but he seemed to have a pretty good mind on his
No, he had a really good mind, and one thing, the great ones, they always find a way to win. That's the good ones. They just find a way to win, and the way with his, he's got Justify out of that good mare, great family, and they need that great family.
Well, that's why we're standing him.
Yes,
because you can sit there and say, oh, he just broke his maiden, but like I said, we want talent. We want that elite talent, and we felt like this horse was the best of our crop.
Yes, he was, and I had people asking me every month, when's he coming back? Heartland. He's my horse. He's my horse. Heartland. Fans, I don't even know him. When's Heartland coming back? He's the best. And so it's one of those things. And when I heard that you were going to stand him, I thought, that's fantastic.
Let's have some fun. Let's clock this horse and see him out. The out time, as Dave, you alluded to, I want to kind of see what you all get on that.
I'm kind of curious to see what we get.
And you see that temporary rail.
Slider is going for the
Oh,
early
it's
lead. A day to remember on the outside, down at the rail, Invincible behind that.
So he's 5 lengths, 6 lengths back. I think Trevor Denman calls him 9 lengths back at one point.
Heartland gives him a good 9-length start. And
right here, I'm just staring at the ground in my box thinking, oh my God, I can't believe what's going on here. This horse is not used to this. And then about here, got a little...
Then he tries
right here,
to go
got behind
outside.
his
Yeah, it looks like he wants to go outside. It looks like
then he started throwing his head around right in here. He didn't like that.
and then I think he sees the inside guy.
This is not looking good at all.
Yeah.
And the thing about Del Mar, it's very speed biased kind of track anyway, and so you just don't win from there. And here it was just a matter.
It was jaw dropping the way he came down the stretch.
And then you have to be pretty professional to kind of go through the inside. I know it starts to open up a little bit there, but he was charging up that way before him.
Right.
And then right here, he just takes off. He just found another gear.
All right, get ready. So I wanted to catch this 3/4 time. So they just hit the wire, and they're coming to the 16th pole past the wire, which would be 6 furlongs. All right, what'd you get?
109.2.
109.51.
That is fast in anybody's book at anybody's racetrack.
And if you can continue it, if people can watch the video of him, it's the Del Mar feed, I think, actually shows him galloping out. He opens up.
He opens up 20.
Yeah, no, he wasn't stopping.
In fact, Juan came back and said I couldn't pull him up.
Yeah.
Dave, you mentioned how big he was, how imposing he was, but he still got there as one of our first horses to run that year.
Yeah, that was the amazing thing about him. When he went into training, I mean, he just transformed into a monster right in front of your eyes. The muscle he got and the attitude he had to training, and I mean, he was just a head and shoulders above anything else. And when he'd come back after breathing on the farm and in the courtyard there, and you just see him, it was like, whoa, what's we got here? This is something special.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching about Heartland. This is a horse that we really believe in. I hope that today with Bob and David Hanley and Dave Grinning that you've learned a little bit more about Heartland, and hope to have you join us for the ride, because to stand a horse that has won one race is difficult. But we know that all the credentials that this horse has, with his pedigree, with the elite ability that he showed with Bob, in his looks, he is justifiable.